for Pinnacle Financial Partners Titans tonight, presented by Pinnacle, of course. Visit titansbanking.com to learn about their convenient mobile banking. Pinnacle Financial Partners, member FDIC. I am Amie Wells. Thank you for joining us tonight on Titans Tonight with Keith Bulluck. Keith Bulluck is, of course, here. Rhett, Bryan, you're here too.
I am.
Gang's all here. We're so excited. There's a lot to talk about as the Titans get ready to go back on the road for 3 weeks. We've got 3 road games back to back to back to back. The first one in Houston, taking on the Texans, another division matchup. And there's a lot to talk about. It's been pretty busy around Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Things have been buzzing. There has been some news. So I think what's best is to just kind of buzz through all the headlines. But before we get to that, Keith, I want to take a second to talk about the game against the Colts. Reactions, feedback, things you noticed that you liked or didn't like. Give me your just kind of like a summary of your thoughts here.
I think for the most part, I saw some good things. You know, you saw the Titans offensively have a couple drives and put some things together. I like that. I think in the first half, to be quite honest, you were seeing, you know, a team effort. You know, I feel like everything was intact. I believe, you know, everyone's talking about the decision, you know, the 2 timeouts before half. All right. Maybe that's where things started to, like, go downhill. But before that, you know, I thought that the offense, you know, held their own defensively. The Titans held their own. Rhett, what was the score at halftime? Do you recall?
Well, you asked me, and then
my bad. It was 20-6 at halftime, but I felt as if the Titans were playing the game tighter than 20-6. And at the same time, I'm also looking at it, understanding and realizing that the Indianapolis Colts have started off the season 2-0, hadn't punted yet, and have a veteran quarterback and offensive line and offensive run. They have a veteran team, you know, to come out and go against the Titans. So look, I don't think that I thought the Titans were going to come out and, you know, bloody the nose of the Indianapolis Colts. But I say that first half was pretty decent, even though the score didn't indicate that. And obviously Cam threw a pick 6, which would obviously make the score, you know, a 2-score game. But defense was holding their own. Big Jeff, I feel like each week he is, you know, being disruptive, pushing back the pocket, putting the center and or the guard and or both in the quarterback's lap. But quarterback's able to, you know, step aside and make plays. But that's what I saw. You know, there's still a lot of work to do. And I'm not even going to go into the negative part of, you know, what's been said all week, just because that does no good.
I agree with that. I think that there's a lot of positives to take away, as well as some areas of improvement. We will talk about all of that as we go on. Rhett, do you want to get to some headlines that have been bumping around Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park?
So a couple of things after that ball game. Tuesday at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park is usually reserved for an 11 o'clock appearance by all of the coordinators, offense, defense, special teams. That was preceded by head coach Bryan coming forward with the statement that he is relinquishing his offensive play calling, and he is transferring that to quarterbacks coach Bo Hardigree. And with the thought that it will help him be a better head coach in terms of the other operational things that happen during a ball game, because calling plays on the offense and then handling all 3 phases with your assistants and your coordinators at a 30,000-foot view, I can't even imagine what that's like spinning plates wise. But I think it caught some people by surprise as to who that was transferred to, not Nick Holtz, the offensive coordinator. But what people don't realize is how all of the assistants have a part in the offensive game plan. like Nick Holtz has his specific roles. Randy Jordan, the running backs coach, has his specific. Everybody, it's a collaborative thing, and to come together to do all this. The other part of it is what people don't realize is Bo Hardigree already has some experience as an offensive coordinator. He was with Josh McDaniels with the Las Vegas Raiders in 2023, and when Josh McDaniels was relieved of his duties, he was the interim OC for the last 9 games, and actually production went up in those last 9 games. Yardage per pass play, run per yardage per carry, all of those things, scoring, a lot of those things went really well. So he is in charge of calling the offensive plays. And the other reason I think it makes sense is he is Cam Ward's position coach.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a village, and a lot of these guys on that side of the ball, including the head coach, have been intensively pouring resources and knowledge and things into Cam Ward. But so there's that part of it. And then the next thing that happens is all of a sudden Jarvis Brownlee Jr., a 5th-round pick in 2024, is traded to the New York Jets. They send him at a 7th pick, a 2026 7th-round pick, in return for a 6th-round 2026 draft pick. And people are scratching their head and wondering why and how and what for. And the thing that I have just tried to, when I've appeared on radio hits and things, is that, first of all, we're reminded this is a business. And while I'm not privy to and know anything at all about as the reasons why that you would trade a starter, they clearly have their reasons, whatever that is. And the thing about Jarvis is, in his first couple of games, he already had 3 penalties. He already had some things that in coverage allowed a touchdown. I don't know if that's part of it. I don't know what any of all that is, only to say that the team made the decision, and they got back a draft pick for that, and they have moved on. Now, I think some of it may have to do with Jalen Armour-Davis elevating his play, and because he got quite a bit of snaps against the Colts. But there's a whole lot of stuff that has happened this week. That's the 2 biggest headlines.
All right, so let's break all of this down a little bit. Bulluck, I want to start with you and Coach Callahan kind of adjusting his roles and responsibilities. As a player in the locker room, is that something that you guys would actually feel that there's kind of a different, I don't even know, protocol or a different way that things are happening both in the week of preparation and then on the sidelines on Sundays?
Well, I called the play, so it would definitely be different if, Jim Schwartz started letting Chuck Cecil call plays, and those were just the coaches when I was playing, just for reference. Like, that
Right.
would be different because Schwartz and I have a way that we communicate, and I guess that would be a situation if Schwartz had to become the interim head coach and he's like, oh, I need to concentrate on this, and or if he just felt that, let's try something different. Or if Jeff Fisher wanted to try something different and it was like, I want you to see what it's like when, let's give Chuck a shot because that's what he feels. You know what I'm saying? Because my pause is like trying to figure out, why it would be done. But at 3-17, you have to do something. Like, as head coach, I don't take it as, Bryan Callahan saying he's the problem, but it's like, we got to do something. Cam has obviously been able to develop and form a rapport with his quarterback coach, and obviously Coach Callahan has confidence to relinquish that responsibility that was his to the quarterback coach in order to maybe possibly build a stronger coaching core and build depth within his coaching staff.
What I think is interesting is that Callie was able to acknowledge this morning that he's been able to, even in the day or two that this change has been in place, he's been able to spend a lot more time with the defense in their meetings, kind of getting an understanding of what they're working on, what is happening over there. He's been able to spend time in special teams meetings. Not to say he wasn't already doing that to a point, but obviously most of his time needed to be allocated to the offensive side of the ball because he was calling the plays for the offense. Having a more well-rounded, maybe understanding of what's going on or being able to be a little bit more present in those other position groups is something that he's talked about since the off season. He wanted to do a better job of spending more time and dividing his time up better across the different areas of the team. I mean, is that something that a defense would notice when your head coach, who has predominantly been an offensive-minded, air quotes, coach, is now spending time in your room a little bit? Does that presence have an impact?
No, unless he's coming in there and offering some information. You know, you're just sitting here pretty much like, what is he doing in here? Because if he's never in our room, it's like, what is he doing in here? Jeff Fisher never taught me anything about playing linebacker. Tom Coughlin never taught me anything about playing linebacker. That's not what the head coach does. Now, if the head coach wants to be more attentive to see exactly what are these defensive schemes that we're running, exactly how my linebackers are being coached, knowing the details of, you know, how his players are learning and how his coaches are coaching, but they're not none of my coaches. And Jeff Fisher was a defensive coach. He's not coming in. Nah, it's not happening. Like, I say it like that because I can't see Jeff Fisher coming in Gunther Cunningham's linebacker room and saying, Keith, you need to do this. Or, you know, head coaches talk through their coaches. So he would tell, Jeff would say something to Gunther or Mac to tell to the linebackers. But there's nothing that they're doing in the pros. Now, in college, that's different. Like in college, Coach Pasqualoni definitely – you know, took over some linebacker rooms. He was a former linebacker, so that being said, if his guys aren't getting it done the way he wants it to be done, Coach Pasqualoni would definitely get his old behind in there and show you the technique he wanted to use.
Old behind.
Hey, y'all got FCC. So
That's
no,
correct.
That was good. That was a really
Good on you.
really good way of phrasing that. I in a similar kind of vein with Jarvis Brownlee Jr. being traded. It was a trade that surprised a lot of people outside of the building. When things happen like that within a locker room, whether they're expected or not, whether there's whatever the dynamics are, and we don't know the full story. We will never. We were not down in those meeting rooms, in the locker room, all of that. But how does something like that impact the dynamics of a locker room overall?
Well, that's one of your starters. You know, the Jarvis Brownlee Jr. was someone that was a fifth-round draft pick, worked his butt off, and had to play out of necessity. Like, he wasn't drafted in the 5th round because the Titans needed him last year. He had to play because there was lack of depth in the defensive backfield at corner last year. So he had to play. He stepped up, and he got a lot of playing time, played very well. I think he might have had, graded out maybe as the highest rookie the Titans had last year. Something I heard on one of these statistics shows. They're all statistics shows now.
What are you,
100?
Back in my day.
Well,
There it is.
you turn on ESPN, that's all they're talking about is statistics. Like, however that goes. But my point is, to answer your question, in the locker room, it could have an effect because he's one of your starters. He's someone that's made plays here. He's a guy that, you know, had a voice within that locker room. And, you know, obviously you'll have to see how that plays out. But if they felt that they found someone within that one game that he was out, like Rhett said, we don't know why the decisions are made. It only plays out on the field. But I definitely feel losing someone like a Jarvis Brownlee Jr. can have an effect, especially on younger guys. You know, kind of makes them kind of look over their shoulder a little bit. You know, if the team doesn't know why, you know what I mean? Usually the coach will come in and be like, guys, we had to make a move, and they'll explain it and break it down to the team. And that's all that really needs to know, because as a player, I would need to know, why you just let my dog go for less than what you got him for. That really does not make sense, whether you're dealing with money or football currency.
Yeah.
Let's play devil's advocate for just a second, though. you're in that locker room and your guy's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But is there that killer instinct in there where it's like, okay, now I have an opportunity for the guys who are in the log jam behind the starters?
Right.
It's like, hey, I hate this. I do. But I realize I'm reminded very harshly that this is a business and I have a chance to make an opportunity here.
Right. I mean, look, and that's how it should be every Sunday. And I say more importantly this Sunday for the entire team, especially obviously they didn't play the type of football they wanted to play, losing 41-20. But, you know, if your opponent, and it's easy for your opponent to talk trash after the game, is saying that, oh, I feel like they were flat and these type of things. It's like, okay, I don't feel like we were flat, but we have another game this Sunday. So there's the telltale, right? How are the Titans going to react this Sunday and Sundays moving forward? Because if they're being called out after the game, and look, being a former player, that really just that to me is like after I win 41-20, I could talk some trash, you know, after 3 touchdown win. You could say, oh, they didn't show up, or they were soft, or they were. You could say whatever you want,
Not
and the
Keith
media,
Bulluck. You've never
and the
done
media
that
is going to eat
before.
it
Come on.
up.
Oh.
Yeah, I was probably telling the truth.
But when you're going to see them again, you're going to see them again.
Well, that's telling me they're not worried.
Ooh.
They're not worried. That's my
Spicy.
point. If they're talking like that in the 3rd game of the season, what they came out and played against, they're not even worried when they play the Titans the next time. That's what type of talk that is. So that's what they feel about the Titans. So yeah, that's bulletin board talk. That's how they feel about the Titans. So that's on the guys in that locker room to go out and rectify that situation for themselves, for themselves, the coaches, the fans, for everyone.
All right. I want to talk more about this, but we have to take a quick break first. So when we come back, more talk about the Titans getting ready to face the Texans right here on Pinnacle Financial Partners Titans Tonight. Welcome back to Pinnacle Financial Partners Titans Tonight with Keith Bulluck, presented by Pinnacle Financial Partners, of course. Amie Wells, Rhett, Bryan, Keith Bulluck, we're all here, and we had an interesting conversation before we took a break, about kind of some bulletin board material pretty early in the season. Another thing that has been said this week that I thought was an interesting comment for a coach to make was Coach Callahan was acknowledging the fact that the Titans are 0-3 looking for their first win, and the Texans are 0-3 looking for their first win. And the way that he characterized it was, we will see who is more desperate for a win this week. That, to me, was an interesting way to phrase what this matchup means, because I thought that desperation was an interesting thing to call upon. And my first thought was, that's an interesting way for a coach to say it. But then in my brain, I flipped it over to desperation, not as like a negative, oh, they're desperate, but as a motivator almost. Like, am I off base on this? Is there a motivation in desperation where we are willing to do literally anything to get this win? That is how bad we want to right the ship to get things back on track.
Well, both teams are 0-3, staring 0-4 in the face, so there's definitely desperation there. So I feel by him saying that, like, he knows if you're 0-3, neither team is playing good football. Neither team is playing good football because they would have a win in the win column. So it might be an ugly game. We're going to go out and play our best, but we're going to do everything to win because we're desperate not to go 0-4, because 0-4, things start sliding. I've been 0-6 before. I've been 1-4, 0-6, but I've also been, 1-5 with no, real help coming. You know what I mean? I've been 0-6 when we had young players and, people that could make plays. We just had to figure it out as a team, figure out our chemistry. Right now, I feel like this Titans team is still trying to gather an identity, So, yeah, there's some desperation.
Okay, talk to me about 0-6. Because looking back on it now, it's like, we just needed to find our identity. In that moment, when you're 0-4, 0-5, 0-6, did you feel like, we've got all the pieces. We just have to figure it out. Is that what you're feeling in real time?
Absolutely. I mean, look, we were 0-6. We were just 13-3 the year before. So we had all the pieces. We just had to figure it out. And then we went on a 6-game winning streak and missed the playoffs by a game. So, yeah, 1,000%. But if I take you back to one of those 2005, 2006 teams or 04, 06 teams, you know, I think we were 5-11. Then we went 4-12. So we got worse. So those are like those are the times and those are the games where you're absolutely desperate for a win, because a win cures everything. You hear that all the time in sports. Winning cures all. So if you can get that one win, get off the schneid, you know, it gives, you know, your young second-year coach an opportunity to come in and have something positive to talk about, because even in a win, you can find a lot of negatives to get better on, but they're overlooked because at the end of the day, the name of the game is to win the football game. So, yeah, I can see how both teams would be desperate this week, because nobody wants to be talked about as one of the worst teams in football next week.
So should we examine why the Houston Texans are 0-3 and look at the matchup?
Rhett, you just read my mind.
Well,
I love it when this
I'm good at those
happens.
things sometimes.
Yes.
So here, Keith framed it perfectly, though. He was a part of a team that went 1-4 in 2002 and went to the AFC Championship game. And there was one that still had a loaded roster. There's a difference, and there's a different story as to why the Titans are 0-3 and the Texans are 0-3.
Yeah.
And the Titans 0-3 is more to the stylings of after they had a salary cap purge and guys were gone, and they like Keith was one of the stalwarts in this thing, and they're bringing young guys in. They had Vince Young, they drafted 3rd overall out of the University of Texas in 2006, and it took a minute for them to get to that point when they were at 2008 and went 13-3, started 10-0. So we know the Titans' issues. There is depth issues in position groups. There's penalties pre-snap. There's lack of, the ability to score with consistency as far as scoring touchdowns. There's a bunch of things you can point to. The Houston Texans, it's interesting because of their 3 phases, the offense is the issue. The defense we'll get to in a minute, and that's what Cam Ward and this offensive line is going to have to face on Sunday. But their offense, 172 yards per game passing, 95 rushing. They are 32nd in scoring. They only have 43 first downs. That's last in the NFL. And when you look at the crux of it, they have been trying to find the winning formula of their starting 5 on their offensive line. They have 4 guys on that offensive line that are new to that line. Titus Howard, the right tackle, has been there for a while. He's the one mainstay in this. So they trade away Laramie Tunsil to the Washington Commanders. They draft Ariante Ursery, who we saw at the Senior Bowl, a big guy from Minnesota that they took in the 2nd round. He's the starting left tackle. Ed Ingram is the right guard. Jake Andrews is the center. Jake Andrews actually is performing pretty well in this and only had 1 career start before this season. So this is start number 5 for him against the Titans on Sunday. And then the left guard is an area of concern because they actually rotated guys at left guard last week in that loss to Jacksonville. They split time between Laken Tomlinson and Juice Scruggs. In fact, Juice Scruggs had 57% of the snaps, Laken Tomlinson the other 43%. And Ariante Ursery has had his issue. He's had 3 or 4 penalties and protection issues that you would expect out of a rookie left tackle who is seeing battle for the first time at this level. C.J. Stroud, 64% completion, 599 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a passer rating of 76.9. Their rushing attack, because they're missing Joe Mixon right now, and Nick Chubb's doing it all right, but the Texans are 29th in rushing attempts, 23rd in yardage. So there's where some of the numbers lie in this.
You know what that says? This game is winnable.
Yeah.
Because that's right. Because Big Jeff can get after the interior of that offensive line. Big Jeff against left guards, they're rotating in and out. I like that for Big Jeff all day long.
You know what, Rhett, look, to me, Big Jeff is like, he came out, he kind of gave his testament. You know, I got leaner. I want to push the pocket. I want to get, put linemen in the quarterback's face. In the first 3 games of the season, I've seen Big Jeff do everything that he said. He's fighting, clawing through double teams. You're not always going to get home. And to be honest, like, I watched the games at home. All the quarterback, Big Jeff's out there in his red. Peyton and Hasselbeck told me this. They just come out and they look for the red gloves, and they knew where I was. So Big Jeff is out there
with his red sleeves.
And Matt, if you watch the game, Danny Dimes was so cool. Jeff has pressure. All he did was just step to the side. So we need those edge rushers and some of those guys that are coming on those blitzes to get home. We're right there, but you got to finish. Got to finish the plays. There were some opportunities against the Colts to get negative yardage plays, but we didn't finish the opportunities. And think I wasn't here last week, but even against the Rams, I can't remember who it is off the top of my head, but the safety on Puka Nacua's touchdown, the safety or the defensive back shot in there. He was right there, but just got to condense it a little bit more. So we're this close. My point being, the Titans are this close from having the tackle for loss, having the multiple sacks, having these plays on defense that's going to help this offense even more.
Let me ask the question. When you say you need to condense, you need to do one more step, one more thing to finish a play, what can you do throughout the week to get over that hump and actually finish that play? Is that a mental thing or is that a preparation thing?
You practice how you play. So, obviously you cannot practice the full contact aspect of, taking on blocks and stuff, but you can stand your ground in practice. You're going against the scout team, so they're not trying to hurt you. You're not trying to hurt them. You stand your ground. You know the space that you have to get to, and you just don't, let your space be denied. Now, the game is different. Sometimes you got to break glass, meaning you just have to throw your body into a pile, be reckless to do your job. And sometimes, people might flinch. Sometimes people might not go all the way in. It's a business decision, as we'll say. So, I guess it just depends on the player, right?
Well, and what you saw, Bully, is what I've heard both defensive coordinator Denard Wilson say this week, head coach Bryan Callahan this week. Tackling has to be better. It has to be, because evidence in that Colts game, I mean, here's Daniel Jones, should have been a loss, should have been a quarterback sack. It's 11 yards, 12 yards, first down. The big run that Jonathan Taylor had, I think there was 5 missed tackles on that one. So your point is so valid, because regardless of this Texans offensive line, they have weapons. They still have Nico Collins. They still have Dalton Schultz at tight end. They're the 2 main targets. They have weapons in this, so you got to be on task. You have to be.
Yeah, and tackling is an attitude. And I saw Coach Denard Wilson up there this week and speaking about exactly what you're talking about. Tackling is an attitude. And what I will say is, one of the hardest things to do in the NFL is make an open field tackle. So my thing was, I never wanted to be in a position where I got to tackle one of these great running backs one-on-one. I don't care who the starting running back is. They are a great player. There are no slouches at the running back position in the NFL. I don't care if they're not a household name. They wouldn't be in that position if not. Trust me, I got broken off by many of those guys that didn't have a household name. That being said, that's the attitude you have to take. We as Titans fans have to expect to see the Titans defense flying around from all levels, from the secondary, the linebackers flying around making plays, because it's essentially you got called out, So when you get called out, you want to be able to show up. And when Rhett was breaking down the Houston Texans, that's what made me jump in and say this game is winnable because of the way that they've been playing. So it even makes more sense to what Coach Callahan said. He's like, who's going to be more desperate? Because neither team is playing well. I feel that's Coach Callahan realizing, and he says it, that, our team could be playing better, so this is the team, and it's this is the game that the best team will win. The team that plays the best will win because statistically the Titans are better. But if you go to Vegas or the main pickers and everything, the Texans are supposed to be the better team, but they got to put it together. That's what you got to love about Sundays because you always got to go out there and prove it.
All right, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little Texans defense. Rhett, you down?
Let's go.
All right. Pinnacle Financial Partners Titans tonight with Keith Bulluck. Pinnacle Financial Partners Titans tonight rolls on. Amie Wells, Keith Bulluck, Rhett, Bryan, we're all here, and we are about to start talking about the Houston Texans defense. Rhett, give us a little preview of what the Titans offense is about to encounter in Houston.
Well, they are one of the main reasons why the 3 losses for the Houston Texans have only been by 1 score each loss. Mm-hmm. They have kept this team in these ball games, and they are the pressure kings, quarterback pressure kings of the NFL currently. 39 total pressures, quarterback pressure rate 32.5%, and it's really started with the 2 guys as the edge rushers. Will Anderson, their top draft pick from Alabama a couple of years ago in the same C.J. Stroud draft. 17 pressures through 3 games, 3 quarterback sacks. Opposite him, the former Viking, Danielle Hunter, 11 pressures, 2 quarterback sacks. And the thing is, they have all of these weapons throughout the 3 levels of the defense, and it really speaks to what you can do when you have a top draft pick who's a quarterback who's on a rookie deal, and that becomes friendly. That's what the Titans are trying to do here with Cam Ward being on a rookie deal. So what they did is they were able to go out through both free agency and the draft and build the defense up in this thing. So outside of those 2 guys, Sheldon Rankins, who's a D tackle, 5 quarterback pressures there. Mario Edwards Jr. But I'm looking at their depth in this. Derek Barnett backs up Will Anderson on the depth chart. And Darrell Taylor, the former Vol who played for the Seattle Seahawks, he backs up Danielle Hunter on that side. And then they look in the middle level of this. There's Azeez Al-Shire. There's Henry To'o. Christian Harris as a backup back there. E.J. Speed, the former Colt that they picked up in free agency, is actually 3rd on the depth chart. And then you go to their secondary, Derek Stingley Jr., probably one of the better corners in the National Football League. People talk about Sauce Gardner and these guys. That guy, ridiculously good. Kamari Lassiter, good with him back there. Jalen Petrie has been a really nice player for them. He got a huge extension in the offseason money-wise as their nickel corner. They just released C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Like, we're talking about, well, what in the world happened to Jarvis Brownlee Jr.? This is not just a Titans thing. This happens in the league. This is just business.
Yep.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson, 3 weeks ago, they reduced his salary to veteran minimum and converted all that to a signing bonus to save them some money. He's now gone.
Yep.
It's going to be like a $5.5 million cap hit for them. But they have defense. They clearly do. They bring it. And, again, you're talking about C.J. Gardner-Johnson in all of those 3 losses. Gave up significant big plays towards the end in all 3 of them that ended up resulting in their opponent going with the go-ahead score. But, yeah, they're a problem. Mm-hmm. And so this Titans offensive line, we'll see what the right side looks like health-wise. But this is going to have to be Cam Ward with now under the tutelage of Bo Hardegree and the rest that are helping him along. Got to get rid of the ball. And I think the other part of it is if you can deliver the football in the run game in this, you can probably help yourself quite a bit because their run defense is, I think it's like 18th in the league right now. And on 3rd down, they're pretty low there too, 40.5%. 3rd down is what they're allowed. So there's some things there you can take advantage of. But Tony Pollard is the key to this and trying to get some things going. But Cam Ward is going to have his head on a swivel. He's going to have to because those 2 big dudes that are the edge rushers, they're the problems.
So, Keith, when you're getting ready to face a defense that is as hot as it seems Houston's is right now, and you have had some troubles offensively, where do you start? Is it that offensive line? Is that the place that you've got to make sure you're shored up there before anything else can really work the way you want it to?
Yeah, I mean, you want to make sure that you're able to protect the quarterback when you need to pass, and that you're getting push off of the line of scrimmage when you go to run. So you want to put the 5 best linemen out there, and then sometimes if you need to use an extra tight end or go 2 tight end sets, or look, man, run 2-man routes with the back leaking in the flat. I've never been an offensive coordinator. Closest I've come is playing Madden. But if you know you're gonna have heat and pressures coming off the edge, I'm definitely chipping Will Anderson. I'm definitely seeing how they're going to attack. Obviously, you have your first 15. You hope that you're able to get through your first 15. First 15 plays are scripted usually on offense. And then you go from there. But I'm just doing things over the last 3 weeks that I see that I've had success with offensively. I feel like they had success with an off-tackle run last week with Pollard. There's several different runs that I've seen in the Titans' run game that they've had success with more than others. There's certain pass concepts and pass routes that I've seen be successful. Look, if you just have to throw drag routes to Calvin Ridley to get him involved, you got to get him involved early. That's the type of player he is, that he has to be involved early. So you just want to protect your quarterback, give him things that he can get confident in himself, which will exude confidence to the rest of the offense, which will lead to the rest of the team.
Speaking of Calvin Ridley, Brian Callahan said that he's trying to do things to really instill some confidence in Calvin Ridley, trying to get him back, trying to help him get out of what seems like a slump that he's in right now, like a baseball player or a golfer or a gymnast
football
or something,
player.
or a football player. But I mean,
No, you're being fair.
You don't think about slumps in football as much, but it is a really real thing, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I remember, I remember this like it was yesterday. We were playing good football as a team, but I was just shaky on angle tackles. I just knew for myself I was shaky on angle tackles, and we played Tampa Bay here, and we won. But there was 2 swing passes Thomas Jones had, and I had to make an angle tackle, and for whatever reason, I couldn't make the angle tackle. Like, he cut back on me 2 times, and we won that game by 17. It was a non-factor in that game, but coming in to that game in my head, I knew something was up. I had a tough time. Not that I missed one the game before, but it was just on me that week. And then I get it in the game, and lo and behold, I miss angle tackles. So then I go practice next week working angle tackles, because all it is you just run through. I'm thinking, I'm in my head, I got to break down position. Nah, you use the sideline as your friend and make him make the move, because I'm running straight through you. But when you start putting all this thinking into it, I've been making angle tackles forever, but I was stuck on angle tackles. So now, if we're speaking about Calvin Ridley, he's a wide receiver. The easiest thing to say as a non-wide receiver is your job is to catch the ball, and I used to say that all the time. But like I just explained to you, it could be something that he's stuck on. But I also always had this saying taped in my locker, and a lot of times some of my teammates would walk by my locker, look at my locker, not say nothing to me, look at my locker. It said, confidence is like money, easy to gain, very hard to gain, very easy to lose. You understand what I'm saying? Confidence is like money, very hard to gain, very easy to lose. So that being said, got to have confidence in the game. And I wrote on my sign, said, get money, because I always had confidence. Confidence wasn't an issue. You know what I'm saying? Confidence wasn't an issue. So it's the approach that you take to the game. Calvin really has made tons of plays in this league. He might need to go back and watch some Alabama tape, go back and watch some whatever
works.
Because it's all mental.
Yeah.
It's not the physical aspect. It's all mental. So go back and watch his high school highlight tape. Whatever it is, you got to make it happen.
It's just something that'll flip the switch.
Hey, to each their own.
No, I mean, dude, whatever you need to do, I think that's great. But to your point, one of the things we know about Calvin Ridley is getting the ball to him early. Giving him the ability to just start off making those plays is how he performs the best for the duration of a game.
For whatever reason, and I've seen it before with other players, but they're just those players that you got to get them going early. They got to be involved. And I've been like that before. Like, it'll be like in the middle of the second quarter, and I've been playing every single play, but I don't feel as if I made a tackle or I haven't done anything. I remember my last year with the Titans, we played Pittsburgh Steelers on a Monday night, and we ended up losing, but I don't feel as if I did anything in that game. But I was out there every single play. You go back, you watch the film. There was nothing I could have did any better, but still, I felt like I was a non-factor, and I was.
You're never a non-factor
No,
to
I
us,
was.
Keith Bulluck. Never, especially not on this show.
No.
We are going to take one more quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to talk a little Pro Football Hall of Fame before we wrap things up right here on Pinnacle Financial Partners, Titans Tonight. The final segment of Pinnacle Financial Partners, Titans Tonight is underway. And I think we need to talk about the Pro Football Hall of Fame because their first list for the class of 2026, the 128 modern era players were nominated for the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2026. So this is kind of the first big dump of people who are nominated. And there's a lot of names on this list that you would recognize because we're kind of in the modern era. I mean, we're actually in the modern era players. But, I mean, a lot of names you recognize quarterbacks. I'm looking at Drew Brees, Randall Cunningham, Eli Manning, Jeff Garcia, Donovan McNabb, Steve McNair. So, speaking of Steve McNair, let's talk about the Titans that are on this list here. There's 8 of them. This list includes Delaney Walker, Derek Mason, Chris Johnson, Steve McNair, Eddie George, Gary Anderson, Jarrell Casey, and Lorenzo Neal. Now, this is, of course, just the first list. There will be pairings down of this list. It will go down.
It'll go down to 50 in October.
Yeah.
And then it'll gradually get down to who the inductees are the night before the Super Bowl at the NFL Honors Celebration.
Yep. So
yeah.
It's, but you've got to be on the first list to be on the last list.
Right.
So having so many Titans on that list, it's a good feeling, right? No.
I've been on that list before.
Yeah.
And Eddie and Steve and Gary, all those guys have been on the list for about 15 years. And I feel like, this is my personal opinion, you know, they're going to put a lot of great players on that list for intrigue.
On the initial list.
Yes, 1,000%. For intrigue, for all the things that we're talking about. But, you know,
so this is a trap?
It's not a trap. It's not a trap. It's their setup, right? It's not a trap. It's just like they're acknowledging and honoring great players that have played within the NFL, like that deserve to have an honorable mention or a mention for the Hall of Fame, you know, and rightfully so. But when you speak about Titans, you know, it would have been done already. Steve and Eddie would have been done already. And, you know, every year they're on that list. D-Mace really feel as if they really took some consideration in Derek Mason's career, you might really put him in the Hall of Fame.
He had over 13,000
You know what I'm saying?
He had
So
a
it's
nice,
like,
very nice career.
Absolutely. So it's like you don't even know the criteria or any, like, so it's like, even for myself, I don't have a Hall of Fame aspirations or anything like that, but if you look at my stats, they fall like somewhere in limbo. So you have a lot of great players, but I always say you have to win in the NFL to really be considered for, you know, certain accolades and awards. It's not always true, but for the most part, if the Titans won in '99 and then
World
they have
championships are the tipping point.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
At least in football, and
Yeah, you're
they
right.
win in '99, come back in 2000, have another great year. You know what I mean? Now you're building that legacy that they look for, especially when, you know, you don't play or win championships.
You got to be on the first list to be on the last list. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I'm saying
That's what
they
I'm
put
saying.
a lot of people on the first list that you know ain't gonna make the last list. So. Being one of
There's
the
the yin and the yang. of it
being
right
one of the
there.
people that was on the first list for about 6 years. I'm just speaking from experience.
There it is.
This is why we're both on the show.
You get honesty, though, when you listen to Titans Tonight with Keith Bulluck.
Why we're both here. Well, the Titans are getting ready to take on the Houston Texans. They are heading on the road, folks. Kickoff for that game is at noon. We have all the coverage on Titans Radio starting at 11 a.m. Central Time. Titans Countdown begins, and then kickoff is at noon. Rhett Bryan will be there, of course. Taylor Zarzer will be on the call with Coach Mack. I'll be there. Keith Bulluck wishes he was going to be there. Are you going? You going to be there?
Houston?
Yeah.
I'll be on my couch like last week. No, look,
Keith
I'm on my
Bulluck
couch.
will be at his house.
Yeah, I'm on my couch. Titans on the big screen and everything else on the iPad.
There it is.
There you go. What more could you need? Anyway, check us out on Titans Radio if you want to hear the call. Otherwise, should be a great game. We're excited and hoping the Titans get the win. For Rhett Bryan, for Keith Bulluck, I'm Amie Wells, thanking you for listening to tonight's edition of Pinnacle Financial Partners Titans Tonight with Keith Bulluck.